I want to talk a little bit about like what made you decide to move to Vegas. Like I remember the day that you told me. I remember we had gone to like a it was like a Bailey Bryan meet and greet, I think, and it was at a radio
Yep,
station. Yeah, and I
yep.
think we went to lunch
I'm like,
afterwards, and you were like, oh, by the way,
"By
want to
the
let you know I'm
way."
moving to Vegas. So
Everyone I
what?
told was like,
Yeah,
um,
what
yeah, so
what
okay,
made you make
it's
that decision?
right, so the history on that was working at Toby Keith's bar in Folsom. I was doing the booking there, so I was the entertainment director. Through that, I met a ton of different musicians that at the time, there were many Toby Keith, I Love This Bar all around the nation, so we would have what we called corporate bands, where they basically hopped from every location, and they, like, circulated that. One of those bands was called Against the Grain, and they were great. And I got to know the
I think I
guys, of
remember
course,
them.
because yeah, they would come through every so often. So they weren't local, but they were familiar to us. I happened to be in Vegas for a friend's birthday party, and the drummer reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I saw on Facebook that you were in town. Wanted to see if you wanted to maybe grab a drink." I'm like, "Sure." So I made time for that to where I could be outside of the festivities for just like a happy hour thing. We meet and he goes, so by the way, Tony quit the band, which was their lead singer. And I was like, what? I'm shocked because it just seemed like it was his entire personality was fronting this band. He was fantastic. He's like, yeah, he's going a different direction. I was like, "So what are you gonna do?" I'm thinking it's the story time. He's like, "Well, how are you doing with your band?" And at the time I had Sweet Revenge,
I remember
and we were
that.
doing well. We were doing regional stuff. We were going to Southern California. We were going to Reno, Tahoe, and Bay Area and Sacramento. So we were doing regional stuff. However, most of the guys had other careers and other priorities. So to get them to even go to these travel dates was difficult because this wasn't like their main thing. They all had like a teaching career or like they're in school for something. And so not downing them for that, it just wasn't their priority. So I was finding myself kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So I told them, I was like, look, I kind of feel like a hamster a little bit. Like I work really, really hard, but I'm not going anywhere because the guys I work with don't want to go farther and they can't. That's not where their priority lies. And he goes, "Well, what would you think about fronting our band?" And I'm like being on the road full time? Like, uh, wow. Can I can I think about that for a second? It kind of like hit me. Like this would change everything. And so, I talked to the guys about it and was like, I want to do this. Like I'm doing it and I want to see what I'm made out of and I want to do more. And I love you guys, but like you guys don't want to do it. So this is what I'm considering. They were super cool about it. We did our last shows. In fact, it was quite a long transition period. I didn't just like up and leave them by any means. I mean, there was a full year of me traveling back and forth to Vegas for meetings, for rehearsals, for shows, like easing myself into it because I wanted to make sure that this was going to be the right fit. That's a huge move to go from your home where you know everybody and you kind of have it made. But if you want to grow, you got to take yourself out of like your comfortable environment. But I wanted to make sure I did that properly and knew that this was the right choice. So once it came time to that band started picking up, I knew I had no choice but to move to Vegas because traveling back and forth was no longer feasible. We planned our last shows. We did Stonies, we did Goldfields, like we did our like little all the places that had really shaped me to be where I was at that time. Um, and that was in 2016. I'll never forget because it was a leap year. And I was leaping hard. And so yeah, I moved to Vegas. We changed the name of the band from Against the Grain to Whiskey Maiden, which I'm still proud of that name. It's awesome. I still use it. When an event or someone hires me, I tell them like you can either book this as Sandy Nights, just use my name, or you can use the name Whiskey Maiden. So if you want a band name, some people prefer to just like they want to book it or market it as a band name. Some people want to market it as my name because it's, you know, known in town. Um, but yeah, and then we hit the road and I was just never here in Vegas. So that was kind of weird. Like I moved to Vegas, barely saw my room that I rented, pretty much took my dog with me on the road and we went all over the place. North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Arizona. Like we were just all over the place. And it was a whole different experience. And when we were in town, I was just performing at Toby Keith's. I love his bar at Harrah's and Gillies at Treasure Island. But I was never in town long enough to like meet anybody. So that was like weird. The first almost 4 years of my time in Vegas, I never met anybody, never did anything. Um,
So it was
but
it
no
was
work.
home base, but you were still on the road a lot.
It was basically a storage unit that had a bed. It was I had a room, I paid rent, I just wasn't in it hardly ever. I was the best roommate ever. I paid my rent and was never there. So, that's pretty cool.